Chat is dominated by a few. 3.8% of users control 80% of the conversation. Total messages over time. Chat activity increased significantly after November 2023, likely due to the controversy, but this masks the departure of some original users who disagreed with the channel's new direction. The graph, starting from January 1, 2023, shows a clear upward trend in the total number of messages over time. This indicates growing activity within the chat environment, suggesting either an increasing number of participants or more active engagement from existing participants. There are several distinct spikes in message volume, particularly noticeable around November 2023 and again in early 2024. These spikes might correspond to specific events, announcements, or incidents that drove higher engagement, such as the departure of Aaron Smith-Levin and the subsequent online discussions. After November 2023, the graph shows increased volatility, with more frequent and higher peaks in message activity. This likely correlates with the backlash and intense discussions following Aaron Smith-Levin's departure from the Aftermath Foundation board. Cumulative distribution of messages across users. A small 3.8% percentage of users contribute the majority, in numbers 80%, of messages, highlighting the unequal distribution of activity and influence within the chat. Concentration of messages. The graph titled Cumulative Distribution of Messages Across Users presents a cumulative distribution function, CDF, that shows how the total number of messages is distributed across users. Here's what this graph tells us. The curve shows that a small percentage of users contribute a large portion of the total messages. Specifically, the graph indicates that approximately 3.8% of users are responsible for 80% of the messages. This is a classic example of the Pareto principle, or 80-20 rule, where a small fraction of users is responsible for the majority of the activity. Who contributes more? Growing Up in Scientology has a vastly larger subscriber base than other channels, allowing it to exert significant influence and potentially dictate narratives across the community. Growing Up in Scientology, led by Aaron Smith-Levin, has an overwhelming subscriber count of 243,000. This is far higher than any other channel on the list, establishing it as the dominant platform within this community. The next closest channels, Relatable Reese and Scientology Life After a Cult, both have around 21,000 subscribers each, which is less than 10% of the subscriber base of Growing Up in Scientology. Other channels like Kelly Copter, Ono Nora, and Serge Delmar have even fewer subscribers, ranging between 10,000 and 16,000. This significant disparity indicates that Aaron Smith-Levin, through his channel, likely has substantial influence over these smaller channels, potentially dictating their narratives or content strategies in exchange for exposure and support. Message count by author group. The total message count for all users is approximately 2.5 million messages. This serves as the baseline for the analysis. Top contributors, a subgroup of highly active users, are responsible for 64.5% of the total messages, contributing around 1.6 million messages. This confirms that a significant portion of the conversation is driven by a small, active group within the community. Moderators and authors contribute 19.4% of the total messages, equating to around 481,913 messages. This group plays a substantial role in shaping the conversation. Regular users, who are less active, account for 16.1% of the total messages, with approximately 400,773 messages. This shows that while regular users contribute to the conversation, their impact is relatively smaller compared to the other groups. Top 15 authors. Due to having been a mod once or twice, Brian Lucas is on the moderators group, otherwise he would top this chart. The user Tampa B Man is the most active non-moderator author with 15,946 messages. This high level of activity suggests that Tampa B Man is a key participant in the chat, possibly influencing discussions even without formal moderation powers. The second most active user, CreepyB5, has 13,557 messages, followed by Yadira and Machtmir Dochegal, who both have over 10,000 messages. These users also play significant roles in the community, contributing large volumes of content. As you move down the list, the message counts gradually decline, with the 15th user, CornFreakDBSC, contributing 5,181 messages. While this is less than the top contributors, it still represents a significant level of engagement compared to the average user. Thanks for watching. Auf Wiedersehen, Servus und Tschüss.